Hello and welcome to another SciFirst MovieTalk episode. In this episode I will be discussing Disney's 1940 animated classic Pinocchio, watched as part of our family film night once again. Pinocchio is Disney's second classic animation, following on from the success of Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, and is very different kind of film altogether. If Snow White was showcasing what Walt Disney could do in terms of animation, I think Pinocchio was then showcasing what kind of story they could tell, of course, as well as the animation. I think the whole story itself is very expertly crafted, based on the timeless Italian story, The Adventures of Pinocchio by Carlo Collodi. At the beginning of the movie, we are introduced to the characters of Jiminy Cricket, a wandering cricket looking for somewhere to rest and warm up. Jiminy leads us into the movie with a narrated kind of story time style introduction and sees him come across a carpenter's workshop, all lit up and fires aglow. I sound like I'm going to burst into a Christmas song, but nonetheless, we then meet Geppetto, a carpenter who makes all sorts of wooden items such as fantastical musical boxes, ingenious and inventive cuckoo clocks, and, of course, wooden puppets, or marionettes, of which his pride and joy is a little wooden marionette he calls Pinocchio. Geppetto lives with his cat, Figaro, and his goldfish, Cleo, but longs for a son and wishes that Pinocchio could be a real boy. Well, that wish is granted by the Blue Fairy, who brings Pinocchio to life as a living puppet, but states that he must earn the right to become a real human boy someday by learning how to choose right from wrong and being kind and thoughtful to others. The Blue Fairy, sensing he could be of some use, asks Jiminy if he will step up to the plate and become Pinocchio's conscience, which he graciously accepts. Needless to say, Geppetto is bewildered, but nonetheless ecstatic to find Pinocchio has come to life. The next day, Geppetto sends Pinocchio off for his first day at school. Well, throughout the film, Pinocchio does try somewhat naively to do what he thinks is right, but along the way there are temptations away from the path of good by none other than a character called Honest John. Of all things, ironic, eh? Pinocchio's naivety and unknown of the world and inability to listen to his conscience makes him a prime target and sees him make some very wrong choices. It has always surprised me, however, and even more so now that I'm an adult, with a child of my own, that Geppetto just sends Pinocchio out into the world on his own, literally the morning after he's just been brought to life. Just sends him to school, which, first of all, the school probably have no record of him ever being registered as attending. Second, people might find it a bit strange that there's a wooden boy just wandering around, and indeed, it's this that catches the eye of Honest John. But the third is that he's sent out into the streets on his own, well, for what all Geppetto knows, with literally no life skills whatsoever. I know that they couldn't just linger the movie while Geppetto and Pinocchio, while Geppetto got Pinocchio up to speed, but the poor lad had no hope whatsoever. It was literally asking for trouble to come looking. I mean, it looks like a nice neighbourhood to begin with, but all the crooked things going on in the background, one has to wonder what Geppetto was thinking. Okay, so of course, he has Jiminy Cricket to tell him right from wrong. Well, when he finally turns up for work, that is. But as insinuated earlier, Pinocchio is headstrong and very eager to be in the world. And the advice of his conscience always just seems like the longer road to take. Pinocchio's wrong choices reflect this. Moreover, not coming from a place of wanting to be bad, but more from the perspective of being eager and keen to be part of the world that he now belongs to. The film does take some very dark turns along the way, and Pinocchio's choices see him never actually end up going to school, and instead sees him end up in some pretty bleak and disturbing places. He also never makes it back home. Poor Geppetto is beside himself with worry and takes Figaro and Cleo out on a search to find Pinocchio. Now, the film is quite moralistic when you examine some of the subtones. Pinocchio has quite severe repercussions when he tells lies. Of course, nonetheless, he tells them anyway, and then suffers the consequences. But the film emphasises that there are indeed consequences for telling lies, and that such lies can quickly snowball. One lie begets another, and so on. Pinocchio is also tempted by a number of vices along the way, including smoking and drinking. Now, I'm not passing judgment on these habits by any means. I'm merely stating the feel of the movie with respect to them. They are made to appear vice-like. That's the whole point of the film. Of course, I do take issue with the perceived age of the children undertaking these activities. But we'll let that slide for a bit, given the age of the film and given that there are some quite sinister repercussions depicted in the film for such actions. In a way, you could almost say that the film was trying to instill good behaviour in young boys, using extreme shock tactics. Well, for little ones in any event. Bad things happen to those that can't resist temptation. Ultimately, it tries to send a message about not taking the easy road and persevering with the one which is longer and more challenging, but, hopefully, for better rewards. Wishes can only take you so far. Having a dream and putting the hard work out there was certainly one of the messages I got from the film. Well, sprinkled, of course, with a little Disney magic to help you along your way. Saying all this, however, the film is still very magical. You've got fairies, dancing puppets, fantastical wooden mechanisms, talking crickets. What more could you want? After all the years since its first release, it's still certainly one to snuggle up together with the whole family and enjoy and appreciate. I was surprised at just how well it has withstood the test of time, to be fair. It's a lovely and very charming movie, and personally I think much more modern in its style and animation for a film released in 1940 than some of the Disney classics that actually follow it. It's certainly a giant leap from the story and animation used in its predecessor, Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, which, although an absolute classic, I do agree, I do find rather dated. One joke that had me in stitches, which I never picked up on before watching the movie again for this review, was right at the beginning when Geppetto is just putting the finishing touches to Pinocchio. All of his clocks, of which there are many, start to chime. He gives a sigh as to suggest that he knows it's late, then when the clocks are finished, looks down at his watch and says, "I wonder what time it is." Brilliant. I actually had to rewind back to this scene just so our son Oliver could actually watch it again, but I think that was more from the point of view of the zany cuckoo clocks and the sounds which tickled his funny bone rather than the joke itself, but hey. The film also contains some real memorable and catchy musical numbers. In fact, one, Wish Upon a Star, has become an anthem for all things Disney over the years. The film is simply iconic and most probably still stands as one of the best animated films ever made and will truly be loved for generations to come, I'm sure. So, that brings me to the end of this episode. Many thanks for watching. If you do like my reviews and general movie discussions, please do hit that subscribe button. Please do leave a like on this episode or any other on my channel. Please leave a comment if you feel that's what you would like to do too. But otherwise, thank you very much for watching. I hope you've enjoyed it. Please do come back again to SciFirst Movie Talk. But otherwise, thank you very much for watching. Goodbye.